April 10, 1912. The docks of Southampton were a sea of humanity, witnesses to the birth of a legend. The RMS Titanic, the largest and most opulent vessel ever conceived by man, stood as a monument to industrial pride. To the world, she was unsinkable, a floating palace of steel and silk. As the midday sun glinted off her massive black hull, thousands gathered to witness history. The air was thick with the scent of coal smoke and the sound of frantic farewells. Wealthy magnates in velvet coats climbed the gangplanks alongside humble immigrants carrying their entire lives in wooden crates. From the railings, white handkerchiefs fluttered like trapped birds as the cry of "bye-bye" echoed across the pier. No one knew. This was the final goodbye. Inside, the atmosphere was ethereal. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm golden glow over the grand staircase, while the scent of expensive cigars and fine wine filled the air. It was a world of absolute luxury, blissfully unaware of the dark Atlantic waiting ahead. The night of April 14th was deceptively calm, the Atlantic reflecting the stars like a dark, frozen mirror. At 11:40 p.m., the illusion of safety shattered. From the crow's nest, a mountain of jagged ice emerged from the gloom. Despite a frantic turn, the Titanic was too massive to dodge her fate. There was no grand explosion, only a sickening metallic scrape. Deep in the boiler rooms, the sea didn't just leak, it erupted, forcing stokers to flee for their lives. On the upper decks, the elite felt only a faint shudder. Some joked about the dusting of ice on the promenade, while others watched in confusion as the engines hummed to a dead stop. But beneath the luxury, the physics of death were already in motion. As the bow began to dip, the first whispers of water began to crawl through the ornate first-class corridors, turning a palace into a sinking tomb. As the bow dipped lower, the terrifying reality of the unsinkable ship's fate took hold. The order was given, women and children first. On the boat deck, the air was a freezing vacuum of panic and disbelief. Rockets hissed into the black sky, bursting in white light, but the horizon remained empty. The grand staircase, once a symbol of high society, now echoed with the roar of surging water. Expensive furniture splintered against mahogany walls as the ship's tilt became a steep, treacherous slope. In the third-class corridor, families struggled against rising floods and locked gates, their screams muffled by the groaning steel. The band played on, a haunting melody against the backdrop of a dying giant, while the first lifeboats were lowered, half empty, into the dark abyss. The gala had ended. The struggle for survival had begun. The end came with the roar of screaming steel and the extinction of all light. By 2:17 a.m., the Titanic's stern was rising high into the frozen air, her massive propellers silhouetted against the stars like the blades of a giant windmill. The stress was too much for the unsinkable spine. With a deafening, thunderous crack that echoed for miles across the water, the ship snapped in two between the third and fourth funnels. The bow plunged toward the abyss, dragging the stern upright into a vertical, terrifying column of iron. Thousands of souls clung to the railings, sliding down the mahogany decks like falling leaves into the black, 28-degree water. Then, with a haunting groan, the stern settled back, filled with water, and slid quietly into the depths. The surface of the Atlantic, once home to the greatest ship ever built, was now a silent, bobbing graveyard of debris and white life jackets. The screams that had pierced the night air soon faded into a haunting, hollow silence. In the 28-degree water, the Atlantic became a merciless executioner. Hundreds of people drifted in the dark, their white life jackets making them look like pale ghosts bobbing on a black mirror. Some clung to wooden crates, others to the overturned collapsible lifeboats, their skin turning a porcelain blue as hypothermia set in. The vastness of the ocean was suffocating. Far in the distance, a single light appeared, the RMS Carpathia. But for most, it was a ghost light, arriving too late. As the sun began to bleed over the horizon, the survivors in the lifeboats looked back at a sea littered with the remains of a dream. Floating telegrams, silk hats, and the splintered mahogany of the grand staircase were all that remained of the world's greatest ship. The rescue was not a celebration, but a funeral procession across the waves. For 73 years, the Titanic remained a ghost, hidden under 2.5 miles of crushing pressure and eternal darkness. When she was finally found in 1985, the unsinkable queen was unrecognizable. The luxury had been replaced by rusticles, iron-eating bacteria that hang like frozen tears from the bow. Today, the ship is a decaying cathedral of steel. The grand staircase is now a hollow, black chasm where light never reaches. Silk dresses have dissolved into the silt, but leather boots, tanned by the sea, remain scattered on the ocean floor like the footprints of those who never left. The bow stands upright, still defiant against the current, while the stern lies nearly half a mile away, a mangled wreck of twisted iron. In this silent archive, time is stopped, and the opulence of 1912 has been reclaimed by the cold, dark hunger of the Atlantic. The Titanic was never just a ship. It was a warning carved in steel. As the deep-sea currents slowly dissolve her remains, the human echoes stay frozen in the silt. In the debris field, a gold pocket watch lies stopped at the exact moment it hit the freezing water, a mechanical witness to the end of an era. The dark archives of this tragedy are not just found in the rusted hull, but in the scattered personal effects that tell stories of unfinished lives. Shaving kits, leather valises, and diamond brooches sit inches away from third-class cooking pots, proving that in the end, the Atlantic made no distinction between the millionaire and the immigrant. The ship is slowly collapsing under its own weight, the upper decks pancaking into the lower levels. Within decades, the bacteria will finish their meal, leaving only a red stain on the ocean floor. But the legend of the unsinkable remains immortal. A ghost story that continues to haunt the edge of our collective memory. The Atlantic is reclaiming its prize. Scientists estimate that by the mid-21st century, the Titanic will be gone, consumed by a unique strain of bacteria called Halomonas titanicae. These microscopic organisms are tirelessly devouring the iron, turning the massive hull into fragile powder-like orange dust. In this minute, we witness the structural collapse of the legend. The roof of the gymnasium has already caved in. The captain's quarters are a hollow shell. The steel that once defied the waves is now as soft as wet paper. Every expedition reveals a new scar, a new missing piece of the skeletal puzzle. It is a race against time to document these dark archives before the sea finally closes the book forever. The ship is not just sinking, it is dissolving, returning to the earth from which it was forged, leaving behind nothing but a red stain in the memory of human vanity. Even in its decaying state, the Titanic remains a graveyard of secrets and whispers. Over a century later, the dark archives are filled with reports of ghostly sightings, flashing lights on the horizon where no ship exists, and the faint, rhythmic sound of a telegraph key tapping out SOS in the dead of night. Expeditions have captured eerie, unexplained shadows moving through the first-class corridors, and the sound of footsteps echoing on the rusted promenade. Is it the pressure of the deep playing tricks on the mind, or the restless spirits of those 1,500 souls who never found a lifeboat? The ship has become a shrine of maritime folklore, a place where the line between history and horror is as thin as the rusted hull itself. As we peer through the cameras of modern submersibles, we aren't just looking at a wreck. We are looking at a monument to a night that refuses to end. As the salt and the pressure finish their work, we are left with a chilling realization. Even the greatest monuments of man are temporary. Soon the 2-mile-long debris field will be all that remains, a scattered graveyard of porcelain, leather, and coal. The ship itself will collapse into a heap of iron dust, leaving the spirits of the 1,500 to finally find rest in the absolute blackness of the abyss. This story began with the cry of unsinkable and ends with a silent, dissolving skeleton. We have looked into the eyes of history and seen only the cold, indifferent reflection of the Atlantic. The Titanic is no longer a ship. It is a ghost, a warning, and a memory. As the final submersible light flickers and dies, the sea closes its doors on the most famous tragedy in human history. The archive is now complete. The rest is silence.